so much for being here today. Absolute pleasure to have you. I'm really excited to be asking you a few questions, which I think our audience are going to love. So let's get started with the usual one. Drew, what's your role at Microsoft, please?
So my current role is called a community program manager. I work on the largest communities of practice program at Microsoft called Worldwide Communities. We have almost 100 communities with 40,000 people. And so I started my work in this team as a volunteer, as all of our community leads are, a couple of years ago when I founded the first employee sustainability community. And then a couple of years later, that actually led to a career change. And I'm able to work on this full time. And so I live and breathe communities at Microsoft. It's really wonderful.
Wow. And give us a feeling, how big is the sustainability community at Microsoft now?
I looked the other day, we're at 4,300, and it's only been around for about 2.5 years. So it truly started with 2 of us, and it's grown quite a lot since then. In fact, it doubled in membership just last year in parallel with the sustainability commitments that Microsoft made.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. So what's the challenge with the group that you're trying to solve?
Yeah, so the communities program, and of course the sustainability community that I still lead, is kind of a microcosm of this. The communities program is all about how do you, within the bureaucracy of a large organization like Microsoft, sometimes it's really hard to find the answer to the question that you need, especially if you're working directly with customers. And so the communities of practice program has been set up to basically create silos of information and resources that people can very quickly access to get that subject matter expertise for their answers. But beyond that, it's really, I think it's about the future of the way that the world works. We're global organizations, we're global teams. In the last year, we're all virtual, we're all remote. So the opportunities for this kind of collaborative, peer-to-peer, tacit knowledge exchange are only growing and becoming more important. And the ability for people to cooperate and coordinate and organize across organizations, across business groups, across time zones, just accelerates all of the work that everybody's trying to do. So the opportunity and the challenge is, how do you leverage the power of community to innovate faster? And in the case of the sustainability community, how do you leverage the power of community to innovate and create solutions to the world's most pressing environmental crises, leveraging Microsoft technology?
Awesome. So I'm clearly a recipient of the group, and it's amazing because every time I post something, when I'm on the lookout for any case studies or just any ideas about has anyone done this before, it's literally within minutes that someone generally replies. And it prevents kind of replication of work as well, doesn't it?
We certainly try. Knowledge management inside of a 140,000 person organization is no small feat. There are entire disciplines and teams dedicated to it. But yeah, that is the goal, is like, chances are if you have a question and you've asked the community, somebody else has that question or had it in the past and has already asked it. So it's wonderful to hear that you have such a good experience getting answers. I love hearing that. That's why we built it. But there's always room to improve on surfacing that information in a more automated way so that people can just find it without having to ask 4,000 people every time. And we're working on that.
Yeah, brilliant. And just sticking with the subject of sustainability a little bit. So do you have a background in sustainability, or is it just sort of one of your passions as well?
Yeah, I would say both. So Microsoft was never something that I thought was ever going to happen for me. I had really no interest in tech. I worked in the environmental nonprofit space for a number of years before coming to Microsoft. So it was always a passion. I've always been really deeply interested in sustainability and conservation, particularly around wild places and wild species. And I had the good fortune of doing some species habitat restoration work and a lot of other great stuff. I also worked directly for a nonprofit called Sea Shepherd. So they're a direct action animal rights organization. If you've ever seen the show Whale Wars on Discovery Channel, that's them. I lived and worked on a boat for them and managed their onshore volunteer network. So community organizing was also in my past and in my wheelhouse. It's something I'm very passionate about.
So if I go back to the episodes, can we see you in the program?
Oh, no, fortunately not. I was never on one of the Antarctic campaigns, but I was on a smaller campaign here in the US, and it was a crazy experience living and working on a boat, and unfortunately seeing firsthand the environmental challenges that our marine ecosystems face, especially plastic pollution.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So and now taking you back into sort of the community organizing. So I could imagine we've got some viewers who think this is brilliant. How do we go about it, or what are any sort of lessons that you may have learned from the different communities that you manage at Microsoft?
Yeah, sure. Oh man, maybe I don't know how we could put a link in there. So there's this really hilarious YouTube video about how you kind of start a movement, and it feels so true to the experience. It's Dancing Guy at a outdoor festival. You can just look it up. Have you seen
Share it? I'll make sure I'll put it in.
Okay, yeah, I'll share it with you. It's hilarious. Oftentimes, I think what it takes to kind of get started is you need somebody who's crazy enough to believe that it can be done and is willing to just try, because like a life motto and increasingly a professional sort of career motto for me is that it rarely hurts to ask. Yeah. And so how we started the sustainability community was asking questions. I mean, I started asking questions as soon as I got to Microsoft. What is the company doing in sustainability? How can I contribute as an employee who does not work in this space? And 5 years ago, when I was asking those questions, the answers weren't nearly as obvious as they are now. And so it starts with curiosity. It starts with empathy. You need to understand what's going on. And then I met Holly, who runs the community with me, founded it with me, and we realized, well, we had some success convincing the company to open its first zero waste cafe, and that's when the light bulb went off. If 2 people can influence an organization as large as Microsoft internally, what would happen if there were thousands of us? And so around the same time, we were approached by the Worldwide Communities Program, which I had never heard of before. And they were a very well-established program, had been around for almost 10 years at that point, and they were like, we don't have a sustainability community. We see what you're doing locally over in Redmond. Yeah. Would you like to try doing it globally? And we said, sure. We don't know what we're doing, but we'll sure try to figure it out. And so it starts with curiosity. It starts with valuing the perspectives, the opinions, the ideas of others. And then tactically, you need to create a way for people to contribute from wherever they are in an organization, in a career stage, whatever it is. Like this kind of North Star that we have is like everybody has something meaningful to contribute. You just have to give them opportunities to plug in and get them excited about the possibility. And that's, once you get the kind of inertia going, it just becomes this, I mean, you see it, you leverage the community. It's this living, breathing organism that isn't just one person or one thing. It's a vibrant tapestry of subject matter experts and volunteers and like business groups all collaborating and finding ways to go, well, we need a design thinking person here, but we also need like a JavaScript engineer who's passionate about elephant conservation here, and like create the infrastructure for people to be able to do that. And can't go without plugging Microsoft software, the Office 365 productivity suite, the things that we offer. That's what we use for community organizing, and it works really well.
Do you have any last sort of thoughts if someone wants to get started with sustainability? What's the one thing or the 2 things people should be doing?
Well, it starts with education, and that starts with curiosity. So I would encourage anyone listening to this, sustainability means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Some people think about recycling, some people think about solar panels, but really, I think it's quite simple. Sustainability is not just like do one thing and you're sustainable. It's a complete perception shift and a recognition that our way of life is fundamentally unsustainable, like in every sense of the word. It's nobody's fault. It's just the way that things developed. And so we need to radically reimagine how we do everything, not only as a global society, but like business models, economics. And so that starts with you as the individual looking through this new lens and going, okay, everything is pretty unsustainable. What changes can I make in my personal life? How can I change my own beliefs? It starts with a change in beliefs, and from there action sprouts out. And so I would say start with curiosity, start with educating yourself, learn about the climate crisis. It is a crisis. We need to treat it as it is, and we need to lead with the science. But then think about small incremental changes that you can make in your personal life. So one of the most impactful things any individual can do is reduce their consumption of meat and animal products. This is one of the most environmentally destructive industries on the planet. You don't have to go vegan overnight, but if you can reduce your consumption over time or on a weekly basis or be flexible, that makes a huge impact. And from there, you'll hopefully start down a journey of analyzing all of the other things that you do. Could you ride a bike or walk instead of driving, or take public transit? Could you go for zero waste alternatives to the things you are traditionally used to buying, like toothpaste or groceries or whatever? It becomes this, once you start going down the path, I think for me at least, it's really fun to think about the challenge of like, how could I do that thing that I've always done or that I need to do to be alive, but then cause less harm doing it?
And also, you can't go back, can you? Once you've started going down the path and once you've educated yourself, there's no way you can go and shift back to the old behaviors.
No, and you shouldn't. I mean, as a global society, we all have to change. That's also part of the issue, is that everybody thinks somebody else needs to change. But I'm here to say that you need to change.
Everyone.
I need to change. We all need to change. And that doesn't have to be a bad experience. In fact, it can be a wonderful, beautiful experience when you start to see the world for its true value, which for me is this like beautiful, biodynamic, diverse planet full of like incredible species and ecosystems. And once you start to value those things for exactly what they are, you want to protect them. Yeah. You know, you want to do something to make sure that they're still around. So yeah, you can never go back. And I honestly, I wouldn't want to. It's a learning journey.
Yeah, amazing, Drew. Thank you so much for joining us today.